3 years ago, I didn't drink coffee. Not once. Now, coffee is my culture, or at least that's what I think. Because think about what that actually means now. Americano, filter, latte, flat white, cortado, iced chocolate mocha, cold brew, Chemex, V60, French press, AeroPress. Where's the bean from? Ethiopia or Colombia? How was it processed, washed or natural? Roast level, grind size, water temperature, water hardness, which cup it goes in, how it's served. I'm tired just saying it. Since when is any of this my taste? I didn't know half those words 3 years ago. Now I'm sitting in a cafe listening to a man explain the altitude the bean was grown at. And I'm nodding, like I understand. So is this culture something I chose, or something that was done to me? Am I actually enjoying this, or do I just think I am? I'm not even getting into whether it's good for you or bad for you. Set that aside completely. My question is much simpler than that. When did a cup of coffee become this elaborate? And I have questions I can't answer. All right, coffee. Where did this thing even come from? It starts in the highlands of Ethiopia, a region called Kaffa. Arabica grows wild there. It still does, right now, today. Every Arabica cup you've ever had, anywhere on earth, traces back to that plant. Then it crosses the Red Sea into Yemen. And here's where it gets interesting. Who were the first real users? Sufis. In 15th century Yemen, Sufi mystics drank kahwa to stay awake through night-long dhikr. Hours of chanting, sometimes the entire night. They needed to not fall asleep. So coffee's first job wasn't pleasure. It was staying awake. Hold on to that. We're coming back to it more than once. From Yemen, it moves out through the port of Mocha into the world. A genetic study in 20 confirmed it. Nearly all Arabica grown outside Ethiopia descends from Yemeni soil. Then Istanbul. Mid-1500s, the first coffee houses open. And something shifts. Coffee stops being a drink and becomes a place. Then Venice, then the rest of Europe. Oxford has a coffee house by 1650, London by 1652. By 1663, there are more than 300 in London alone. 50 years, 0 to 300. And now the strange part. We can read what people wrote at the time. They wrote down what they thought of it. And it isn't subtle. They thought it tasted disgusting. Not, take some getting used to, genuinely awful. They drank it anyway, enough to open 300 shops. Why? Now jump forward 400 years. Where is coffee today? It isn't a drink anymore. It's an industry, an identity, a hobby, a conversation. You walk into a cafe and there are 30 things on the menu. The farm is printed on it, the altitude, sometimes the farmer's name. There are tasting notes, jasmine peach, dark chocolate. A cup of coffee became a $15 experience. And notice this? It's recent, very recent. 20 years ago, it wasn't like this. Your father didn't drink coffee like this. So what happened? Did coffee change? Or did we? Here's the first thing worth asking. Do we love coffee, or do we love what it lets us do? Think about it. Where do you drink it? In a cafe, with someone, or alone but surrounded by people. So what does let's get a coffee actually mean? It doesn't mean drinking coffee. It means I want to spend an hour with you. Coffee is the excuse. And this isn't new. This is coffee's entire history. Go back to 1633. Sultan Murad IV makes drinking coffee a capital offense. Think about that for a second. A beverage, the death penalty. By some accounts, he walked Istanbul in disguise, hunting for people drinking it. First offense, a beating. Second offense, according to some accounts, sewn into a leather sack and thrown into the Bosphorus. So here's the question. Why? Because of caffeine? No, Nobody on Earth knew what caffeine was. The answer is much simpler, because of the room. The coffee house was where people sat down together and talked, rich and poor at the same table, and the state couldn't hear what was being said. That was the crime, not the drink, the gathering. It didn't work, by the way. They reopened every single time. In 1675, Charles II tried the same thing in London. He'd already sent spies into the coffee houses. He called them a source of false news. Sound familiar? The backlash was so strong he had to withdraw the ban. Now look at what those rooms actually produced. They had a nickname in London, penny universities. Here's why. You paid 1 penny. That got you through the door. It got you a cup. It got you the newspapers on the table. And it got you into the argument. 1 penny. At a time when actual universities were closed to almost everyone alive. Who was in those rooms? Newton, Samuel Pepys, Dryden. And look what came off those tables. Lloyd's Coffee House, opened 1686 by a man named Edward Lloyd. Sailors, merchants, ship owners. Lloyd gave them reliable shipping news. They sat there insuring each other's ships over cups. That coffee house is now Lloyd's of London, one of the largest insurance markets on earth. Jonathan's Coffee House. Stock trading happened there. It became the London Stock Exchange. The Grecian. The Royal Society met there to argue about mathematics and astronomy. Modern insurance, modern finance, modern journalism, modern science. A serious chunk of it was built on tables stained by a drink everyone agreed tasted terrible. So coffee was never a flavor. It was an excuse to sit down near strangers. So how did that become a paper cup? You drink alone, walking. 1952, America. There's a trade group called the Pan American Coffee Bureau, funded by Latin American coffee-producing countries. Their job is selling coffee in America. And they have a problem. Americans drink coffee at home, but not at work. So what do? $2 million in 1952 money on one slogan: give yourself a coffee break and get what coffee gives to you. Radio, newspapers, magazines, everywhere. Now stop, because this is where this story usually gets exaggerated, and I'm not going to exaggerate it. They did not invent the break. Workers were already taking them. Ford sanctioned a morning break around 1910. Wartime factories ran them. By 1951, Time magazine noted breaks were already written into union contracts. So the break existed. What the campaign did was give it a name. And the moment you name something, it becomes real. It becomes something you can ask for. It spreads. Within a decade, it was standard. Twice a day, millions of people perform a ritual that a marketing department named, and it feels like ours. And there's another layer, the room itself. In 1989, a sociologist named Ray Oldenburg published a book called The Great Good Place. In it, he described the third place. Home is first, work is second. The third is where people gather informally, neutral ground, where community actually happens. And Oldenburg's real argument was that these places are essential to democracy, a place to argue, to build trust, which is exactly what Murad IV was afraid of 350 years earlier. Then Howard Schultz read it. Schultz went to Milan in 1983, saw the Italian espresso bars, and wanted that in America. He took Oldenburg's concept and turned it into a business model. His words, at home you're part of a family, at work you're part of a company, and somewhere in between there's a place where you can sit back and be yourself. He didn't coin the term, he borrowed it. So that sense of belonging you feel in a cafe, it's a sociologist's concept redrawn as a floor plan. The lighting isn't an accident. The music isn't an accident. Your name on the cup isn't an accident. And there's one more piece. You've almost certainly repeated this one yourself. Coffee is the second most traded commodity in the world after oil. Heard that? I have. I've said it out loud. It's false. By MIT's trade data, coffee is roughly the 98th most traded product in the world. 98th! It isn't even the second most traded agricultural product. That's wheat, behind soybeans. It was close to true in the 1970s. Then grains and metals overtook it. It's been wrong for decades. But it won't die. Starbucks said it to a U.S. Senate committee. Fact-checkers rated it false. Even the historian whose book helped spread it published a correction. His words, "I was wrong, and so is everyone else who keeps repeating this myth." So why won't it die? Because it makes the thing we love feel important. And honestly, that's what this whole video is about. And then there's the taste. I don't actually like it. And I'm going to tell you why, because the answer is stranger than you'd think. Bitterness isn't a flavor, it's an alarm. Most bitter compounds in nature are toxic. Alkaloids, glycosides, plants make them so they don't get eaten. So for millions of years, spitting out bitter things meant staying alive. Evolution didn't leave that to learning. It came pre-installed. The proof is simple. Give a newborn something bitter. The face, the recoil, the rejection. Nobody taught that. Your bitter receptors are a poison detector. That's the entire job. So what are you doing every single morning? You're deliberately overriding a survival system that kept your ancestors alive for millions of years, before you're even properly awake. So how does a poison alarm turn into a pleasure? You think you know. You got used to it. Repetition dulled the bitterness. In 2018, Northwestern University and QIMR Berghofer in Australia tested exactly that. Here's how. Some people are genetically wired to taste bitterness more strongly. It's a gene variant. That's not a preference. That's hardware you were born with. And in the UK, there's data on over 400,000 people, their genetics, and their coffee intake. They used Mendelian randomization, a technique borrowed from disease epidemiology. It lets you get past these two things happen together and reach cause, because you didn't choose your genes. So the question was clean. Does tasting bitterness more strongly cause you to drink less coffee? The obvious answer. Of course, taste it more, drink it less. Every instinct says so. The result came back backwards. People genetically wired to taste caffeine's bitterness more strongly drank more coffee, not less, more. Around 20% more likely to be heavy drinkers, over 4 cups a day. The lead researcher's own words. You'd expect the opposite. And now the detail that cracks it open. Pay attention because this is the whole thing. The same study tested 2 other bitter compounds. Quinine, the bitterness in tonic water, and prop, the bitterness in vegetables like broccoli. People sensitive to those drank less coffee. Exactly what you'd predict. Do you see what that means? It isn't bitterness. Your tongue rejects bitterness in general. It rejects quinine. It rejects broccoli. The system works fine. But caffeine is an exception. Caffeine's specific bitter signature is an exception. Read that again. The people who taste the drug most clearly seek it out the most. Because your tongue isn't tasting a flavor, it's detecting a drug. And it got very, very good at it. The researcher's explanation, learned positive reinforcement. Here's the mechanism. You taste the bitterness. 20 minutes later, the caffeine lands. You wake up, you sharpen, you feel good every time, without exception, for years. Your brain isn't stupid. Eventually it makes the connection, reaches back, and relabels the taste. Not as poison, as a signal. You never learned to love the bitterness. You learned what the bitterness means. Think of it this way. The taste is the doorbell. What arrives 20 minutes later is the person at the door. Nobody loves a doorbell. You feel good hearing it because you know who's coming. And now go back 400 years. Those Englishmen thought it tasted disgusting and drank it anyway. Same mechanism, same doorbell. All right, let's add it up. Your tongue calls it poison. Your brain overrode that for a drug. The taste you love is a doorbell you learn to answer. The room it came from was banned by 2 empires because people talked in it. Then the room was taken from you and replaced with a paper cup to drink alone, walking. The ritual you perform twice a day was named by an ad campaign. The belonging you feel in a cafe is a sociologist's idea, redrawn as a floor plan. And the interesting fact you know about coffee isn't even true. So, do I like coffee? Or was I built to? Here's where I'll be honest with you. I don't think that question has an answer. And I think that's the interesting part. Because stop and look at what else works exactly this way. The song you hated the first time and now know by heart. The city you found ugly until you'd walked it enough. And the people you love. How many did you love on sight? Familiarity, repetition, association. That's not coffee's trick. That's how liking anything works. Coffee is just the rare case where the scaffolding is still standing, where you can point at it. The drug, the campaign, the date, the ban. Everything else does the same thing quietly and lets you believe you chose it. So maybe the question isn't whether my taste is real. Maybe real was never the right word. 3 years ago, this wasn't mine. Now it is. I'm going to make one tomorrow morning anyway. It's going to taste bad, and I'm going to enjoy it. I just won't pretend I know why anymore.